Hey everyone, today we are doing our last section in chapter 2. You will have a quiz on 2.5 through 2.8 later this week. So today we're talking about literal equations. So literal equations, you sometimes want to solve for variables. Sometimes you may want to solve an equation such as volume equals length times width times height for one of its variables. For example, if you know the volume, the width, and the height, then the equation length equals volume divided by width times height is more useful for finding the volume, finding the length. If an equation that contains more than one variable is to be solved for a specific variable, use the properties of equality to isolate the specified variable. So, example 1. If I want to solve 2x minus 4y equals 8 for y, I need to isolate y. So the first thing I want to do is undo any adding or subtracting. So I'm looking to get y by itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides of my equation. And that gives me negative 4y equals negative 2x plus 8. Now I need to eliminate the negative 4 in front of y, which means it's negative 4 times y. So I divide everything by negative 4. And negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1, so that gives me just y. Negative 2 over negative 4 is 1/2 x. 8 over negative 4 is negative 2. And so now I've solved that equation for y. So I took that standard equation and put it in y equals mx plus b. Example 2. The formula c equals pi d represents the circumference of a circle, or the distance around the circle where d is the diameter. If an airplane could fly around Earth at the equator without stopping, it would have traveled about 24,900 miles. Find the diameter of Earth. So we're using the equation c equals pi d. And what I want to find is I want to find the diameter, but I know the circumference. So I could substitute and then solve, but it's easier if I'm going to be using the equation repeatedly to solve for diameter first. So to isolate diameter, or d, I'm going to divide both sides by pi. So I get d equals circumference over pi. So then I'm going to do 24,900 divided by pi. And I'm going to do that on my calculator. And when I do that on my calculator, I get 7,925.9 miles, or approximately 7,926. Now, that's not the full answer. I rounded it there. The full answer is 7,925.91616666. I don't say those sixes are repeating because chances are with pi it's not. So now I want to solve the equation for the variable indicated. So number 1, if I want to get x alone, I need to first undo the minus b. So I add b to both sides. And then I have ax equals b plus c. I then divide everything by a. So x equals b plus c over a. Or you could say b over a plus c over a. This one, number 2, I'm going to solve for x. So again, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. I get 15x equals y minus 1. And then I divide everything by 15. And I get x equals y minus 1 over 15. Number 3, I'm going to get x by itself. So I'm first going to subtract 2. And then I get x plus f equals j minus 2. Then I subtract f, and x equals j minus 2 minus f. So there are 6 more examples. I want you to pause, try, and come back. Okay, so hopefully you paused and solved these. Number 4 should be y equals 9 minus w over x. 5 should be k equals 4 minus p over x. 6 is y equals m minus 7x over 3. 7 is 9/5 c plus 32 equals f. 8 is p minus 2l all over 2 equals w. And 9 is a over w equals l. So number 10 now says the volume of a cylinder V is given by the formula V equals pi r squared h, where r is the radius and h is the height. Solve the formula for h. So I know that volume equals pi r squared h, and I really want to get h alone. So this is all multiplication here, so I can divide both sides by pi over r squared. And that gives me that H equals volume divided by pi r squared. So now letter B is easier because if I want to find the height of the cylinder whose volume is 2500 pi and the radius is 10, I say H equals 2500 pi divided by pi times 10 squared. The pi's divide out, and so I really have 2500 divided by 10 squared, which is really just 25. So I want you to pause and I want you to try 11, 12, and 13, and then come back. Okay, so number 11, when we take the equation p equals 64d and solve for d, we get p over 64 equals d. So then for b, we substitute in 672 and 64, and we get the d equals 10.5 feet. 12, we solve that equation. For y, we get y equals b minus x times b all over a. Substitute in, and we find out y equals negative 1/2. 13, we get E equals IR. Divide both sides by I, and we get R equals E over I. Substitute, and we get that R equals 48 ohms. If you have any questions on any of these, please note them down and bring them to class.